Hey, so these are the top 10 biases that I found that teachers harbor towards culturally and linguistically diverse students. These are from scholarly journals, TED Talks, and just different references that I found based on my reading instruction course. And so I'm just going to address a few of these biases and what teachers can do to help overcome these biases. And ultimately, I think this video is so important because many times when we have these unconscious biases, we don't even know that we have them. A lot of them, when I was looking through them, I found that I have a lot of these biases myself, and I really learned and gained a good bit of information from this in addressing the biases, not just for me personally, but also in helping other teachers as well to understand that when we have these biases, they become a wall between us and our students, and that they shouldn't be there. Instead, we should address those biases, those misconceptions, in order to help our students, to propel them to their fullest potential. And so I really hope that these 10 biases that I'm going to be talking about, that they are helpful to you, because I know that they've been helpful to me, and hopefully you just get at least like one thing from it. All right, let's get started. The first bias is that when CLD students are able to speak English fluently, then they're ready to be successful in the mainstream classroom. And so that's a bias, and even I've had that too. So what teachers can do about that is that we can just have an understanding that when a student can speak in vernacular English, it doesn't necessarily transfer into them speaking and doing well in the classroom, because regular language, it has different structures and different vocabulary as opposed to academically written and oral language. A second bias that many teachers have towards CLD students is that they are underachievers, and there's an academic gap in between our CLD students and the mainstream classroom because of their little support at home, that their parents don't care about their education, or also that they don't bring in to the classroom any background knowledge, the skills, or just even the experiences in order to be successful. And so in order to address this bias, a big thing is that if teachers are thinking this way, then possibly they need to understand that maybe they might be the problem. And even for me, I have had this misconception as well, this bias. And so we've had reforms mandated for us to make accommodations for our students. And so we need to be implementing those accommodations into our lesson plans, into our daily way of teaching our students, and even to ask ourselves questions so that we don't have these misconceptions. We can ask ourselves questions such as, does our student have love and support at home? Do they have unusual responsibilities that they need to take care of? And also, do they have adequate food and shelter? Another bias that many teachers have is that they are reluctant to bring up the topic of religion in their classroom. I know there's a lot of gray area in terms of what we can teach according to the First Amendment. And so to address this bias, teachers need to understand that we can talk about religion in our classroom, and that religious pluralism is very, very important in our multicultural education. Even one Supreme Court justice has stated that one's education is not complete without a study of comparative religion or the history of religion and its relationship to the advancement of civilization. And so bringing in religious scripture from the Bible or the Quran in order to teach literature is very acceptable and even recommended. Another bias is that many teachers think that students learn a second language quickly, but in actuality it just really depends. There are many factors into students learning a second language, and that can include their experiences of of acclimating to a new culture and a new language, and also their level of proficiency in their native language. A bias that teachers have is that CLD students, they all learn English the same way. And that's just not the case. It really depends on their prior schooling and their academic content knowledge that they bring into the classroom, along with the lexical similarities of their language to the English language. And so among many other factors, these all make it so that teaching ELL students or CLD students, it's a different experience for each one of them. Moving on, another bias is that teachers think that teaching CLD students, there should only be a focus on vocabulary. So to address this, what teachers can understand is that it's not just about vocabulary, but also about forms and structures, because students need to understand that there are different types of forms and meanings in order for them to express complex thoughts in their writing and even in their speaking as well. Furthermore, more biases is that many teachers believe that culture is not important when teaching CLD students. So to address this, culture is actually the window through which a lot of people understand the world and the things around them. And teachers, we should really use culture as a vehicle for learning in our classrooms. Research has shown that when you incorporate culture into your lessons and blend them and bring them together, then there is actually more engagement in the students, and it makes it more relevant for them, and it actually leads to higher success rates for CLD students. In addition, another bias is that many students with the same ethnic background, they have the same learning style. So to address this, teachers need to understand that all students, it doesn't matter what their ethnicity is, they all have different learning styles. And so even research has shown that students who are in a classroom with a teacher that has a similar learning style as them, they tend to do better and they tend to like that teacher more. So what teachers can do to address this is that they can incorporate a variety of different learning styles into their classrooms whenever possible, and to just include a variety of learning styles, such as just having visuals, auditory, and kinesthetic experiences in their classrooms to address different learning styles while students are processing the information in the classrooms. Alright, so we've come down to our final 10th bias, which is that the responsibility of teaching culturally and linguistically diverse students is on the ESL teacher or the bilingual teacher. So to address this, traditionally speaking, the responsibility, it should be from the ESL teacher, but because of the increasing number of ELL students in our country, the responsibility has shifted to now being on the general education teachers. So we should be adequately equipped and knowledgeable in teaching ELL students and making accommodations and helping them in our classrooms. Alright, so that's it. Those are the top 10 biases that teachers have and that they harbor towards CLD students, maybe without even knowing it. I hope that I addressed a good bit of it and that you got a lot of really good information from this.